Thanks for joining us for our inaugural episode of Fungos and Fastballs. We'll be starting many podcasts with a first pitch, an entertaining shorter story or fun fact. I thought we might start this one with a first pitch about our podcast name. Seems appropriate. Some out there may wonder, what exactly is a fungo? And why would one choose such an unusual word to put in the title of an eventually usually successful podcast?
And well paid.
Well, after a lot of thought, research, and consideration, we came up with a great name, 90 Feet Away, the distance between each base. Very catchy. I searched twice thoroughly, I thought, to see if it was being used, but clearly my search engine skills are not as awesome as my baseball trivia knowledge, because a month later I did a third search, and lo and behold, there had been a baseball podcast 90 feet away since 2024. I even corresponded with Coach Eric Holtz, a former Israeli national baseball manager. Super nice guy. After a hiatus, he'll be back with his podcast soon. I watched it on YouTube. Something you should check it out. Of course, in the interim, my wonderful wife and producer, Brooke,
Hello.
had hats and shirts made as a present.
Yes, I did.
So that wasn't great because now we have the wrong title on our merch.
Yes, we do.
But lesson learned, research the hell out of your prospective podcast name. So it sent me back to the drawing board, and if you've ever had to come up with a name for a podcast, you may know basically every great name you came up with is inevitably taken. So I decided to choose a unique and wacky-sounding name. For those who don't know the term, Fungos. It even has fun in the name. It's a practice ball where batters toss the ball in the air and hits the ball on the way down. Those who have played baseball know about fungo bats used for those practice drills.
So is a fungo the bat, or is it the actual ball that was hit?
Yes. Fungo is the drill or the ball that was hit, and the fungo bats are the bat.
Got it.
You all know what fastballs are, I hope. So that's the story of our name. But as Shakespeare says, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any name would smell as sweet. Hoping you'll really enjoy this new podcast. That was fun. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Fungos and Fastballs, the podcast of baseball history and trivia. I'm your host, Jerry Dines, and each episode will be a 15-minute snapshot into America's pastime. Maybe it'll be a player, a tradition, a stadium, a rule, or some random fun aspect of the game. So let's get on to today's topic. The record for career stolen bases is held by Hall of Famer Rickey Henderson. But who held this record prior to Rickey and is currently number 2 on the list? Keep listening for this answer. Jerry here with my wife and producer, Brooke.
Hey.
And I feel like I should give an introduction. Brooke, it's our first episode. I can give an introduction, right? We have time for that?
You only get one chance to do your first introduction, although we did record our first pitch, so wasn't that really our first introduction? Well, just go ahead.
Yeah, but Brooke, you really never get another chance to introduce and potentially screw up your inaugural podcast. So what's this we're doing here today? Of course, there are tons of sports podcasts out there, and baseball ones in particular, but less so shows focused on the long, over 150-year history of the sport. And yes, today, February 2nd, we are at 150 years exactly of the National League when the senior circuit was established. And me, your humble host here today, am I a former player, executive, journalist? Sure, I could wax nostalgic about my storied years in Little League. Maybe I will one day. Hopefully not. No, like you, I'm a big fan and student of the game, and the kind of guy you don't want to play Trivial Pursuit with. Not because I might know the answer, but because I'm going to add all these side stories and, quote, fun facts.
Hey, listener, just so you know, we do go and play trivia at least once a week. We're feared as a team, yet loved as people. Granted, Jerry will potentially bore you with tidbits about the name of the headless horse of The Godfather, or maybe about Kentucky Fried Chicken's Colonel Sanders, who was actually
a private when discharged from the military.
See?
Hey, I thought I was the trivia guy. Well, while a guy spouting out those facts would be a total bore at dinner parties, this is just the kind of guy you want running your baseball podcast. You want me on this podcast, you need me on this podcast. But I know you got other podcasts to listen to and certainly don't want to listen to me drone on for over an hour. So each episode really aims to be a 15 to 20-minute snapshot of something fun about America's pastime. We'll mix it up with each episode, jumping around to a different item or theme. Thanks for that. And now we continue with today's show. Well, today we do focus on the player who is number 2 on that career steals list, Hall of Famer Lou Brock. Memories of baseball can come from any number of experiences, but today I'm remembering back to grammar school before I even met Brooke, and the library in my school where I was a kid. And amidst the out-of-date science books and Hardy Boy mysteries was an old multi-volume 1970s sports encyclopedia. I tried to find that book on eBay, and sadly spending probably half the time of this episode's podcast research, but I just couldn't find it.
You know, I looked too. I couldn't find it either.
You don't know what it looks like. You didn't know me back then.
Hey, I'm a good Google searcher.
Well, yet ingrained in my brain, right there on the cover of this book, was an image of St. Louis Cardinal Lou Brock seemingly ready to take a base. Hey, any listeners remember or know anything about this book, you can post in the comments or just email
Reach
us.
out.
Yeah, reach out. Well, growing up in New Jersey, I didn't get to see the Cardinals much, but the larger-than-life figures of that era seemed to span beyond regions outside of New York. I mean, Hank Aaron, Pete Rose, Willie Stargell, Johnny Bench, and yes, Lou Brock.
I recognize all those names, but not Lou Brock. You have me on the edge of my seat, so I'm excited to learn on this episode, so go ahead.
Did your parents not let you watch baseball? You poor deprived child.
Yeah, I didn't watch baseball at all.
Well, Brock actually passed away somewhat recently in 2020 at age 81. And a little history. He was born in El Dorado, Arkansas back in 1939 to a family of cotton sharecroppers, moving to Louisiana at age 2, and eventually attending Southern University here in Baton Rouge.
Wait, right here in lovely Baton Rouge?
Right here. He had an academic scholarship that, due to low grades, was in jeopardy. So he decided to try out for Southern's baseball team to get an athletic scholarship instead. And he would eventually win a championship with Southern, and then was selected to the U.S. team in the 1959 Pan American Games, before trying out first unsuccessfully for his future team, the Cardinals. But then he tried out for the Cubs, and they signed him. And this would start a 19-year Hall of Fame career, initially with Chicago, and then after a 1964 trade to the St. Louis Cardinals, where he'd stay until 1979. He would settle into left field, taking Stan Musial's outfield position after Stan the Man's retirement a year earlier. How about that for your club, having those two as successive outfielders? I had the pleasure of visiting Busch Stadium to see the Cardinals beat their rival Brewers just last season, and took pictures right out front with statues of both Brock and Stan the Man.
Actually, if you look at our Instagram and Facebook pages, you can see Jerry standing next to the statue.
Well, I have faith in you, Brooke, and your social media experience. Well, back to Brock's history. So the Cubs had traded him to the Cardinal for starter Ernie Broglio, who the season before had 18 wins. But he only lasted 2 more seasons and only 7 more wins until his career ended in 1966. Back in 2015, ESPN ranked this as the worst midseason trade. Well, with the Cubs, Brock was just an okay hitter, and he really was not encouraged to steal bases. But in St. Louis, manager Johnny Keane suggested Brock not just try to hit for the fences, but instead emphasize getting on base and focusing on some small ball base stealing. This is where Brock thrived, leading the National League 8 times in steals. Now, the single-season stolen base record at that time was Maury Wills, who in 1962, with 104 steals, had broken Ty Cobb's 47-year-old record of 96. But in 1974, Brock would break that record, eventually with 118 stolen bases. Now, I mentioned Rickey Henderson earlier. He would beat Brock's record and get to 130 in 1982. And that answers our Instagram post question, if you're following. I just love the fun local stories about baseball. After Brock's passing, I read a tribute article from the radio station 101 ESPN St. Louis that talks about locally sold Brock's Base Burglars 105 Club t-shirts that were sold in St. Louis that year that Brock was trying to break Will's record.
Well, that should make a good post. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, look on Ask Jeeves. Is that search engine still around?
Yes, I'll look on Ask Jeeves.
Hey, this is why I need a producer. So, Brock would help the Cardinals win 3 National League pennants in 1964, 67, and 1968, and win 2 World Series, first in 1964, his first year with the team, and in 1967. Now, in the 1967, he had .414, scored 8 runs, and set a World Series record of 7 stolen bases in a series. He'd tie that record in the 1968 series, a record that still stands today.
Listener, just so you know, my baseball knowledge is, well, let's just say it's limited. It's probably at a 100. Is that even how you say it? But I certainly know that hitting .414 is amazing.
Yes, he was an excellent hitter. He had 6 consecutive seasons, starting in 1969, each with over 190 hits. At the time of his retirement, he had a total of 3,023 hits, then 12th on the all-time list. In August 1977, versus the Padres, Brock broke Ty Cobb's career record of 892 stolen bases, a record that stood almost 50 years. And saying Brock broke is a tough tongue twister.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
So if you're keeping track, now we have Rickey Henderson at number 1 and Lou Brock number 2. So, Ty Cobb should be third on that list based on what we heard earlier. But no, Cobb is currently 4th on the list, not just behind Rickey and Lou, but also behind Billy Hamilton from the 1800s, not the 21st century Reds and Cubs speedster. But in the 1800s, stolen bases were calculated differently. A stolen base even counted if you reached an extra base on a base hit from another player. Modern stolen base rules weren't implemented until 1898. Later in his career, in 1979, Brock felt a bit snubbed when Red Sox outfielder Carl Yastrzemski was invited to the White House by Massachusetts Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill. You see, Yaz had reached 3,000 hits, a pretty important milestone. But Brock had also hit that milestone a month earlier and did not have an invite.
Well, that's totally unfair.
Well, President Jimmy Carter would right that wrong, and he would invite Brock to the White House.
I'm glad about that.
Well, Lou would have a resurgence in his final season in 1979 with a .304 average, achieving Comeback Player of the Year at age 40. The Cardinals would retire number 20 in honor of Brock in 1979. He finished up a 6-time All-Star and would be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1985 on the first ballot. With 75% needed, Brock got 79.7% of the votes.
I think you could have rounded that to 80 for this podcast.
Baseball trivia guys are specific, Brooke.
You're right. Numbers matter.
Interviews with Brock show him to be a fun, vibrant personality. I love the story of how Brock, a left-handed hitter, decided to take at age 37 in 1976 his first and only major league at-bat as a righty. Brock also would do a little advertising, endorsing a red and white novelty umbrella hat called the Brock Umbrella.
Hey, listener, check out our Instagram for a photo.
Well, trivia alert, Brock's hat was marketed then by the father of actor Billy Crudup, who you may know from TV's Morning Show and films like Mission Impossible 3, and from his marriage to Naomi Watts.
You're going a little deep here. Get back on track.
But I love the story of Brock's kind personality, too, like the one by sports reporter Tim Kurchin after Brock's passing, sharing a story of Lou taking the time to speak with Kurchin's 10-year-old son. Brock would tell the boy, quote, "You have a great smile. Let everyone see it. A great smile can disarm people like nothing else. Smile as much as you can. We don't smile enough in the world today." So is it any wonder with Brock's talent, reputation, and personality that he landed on the cover of a sports encyclopedia and cemented the admiration of a young fan from Jersey back in the day?
Well, I just want to say thanks, Jerry. I really enjoyed learning about Lou.
Lou? Are you guys on a first-name basis?
Well, I feel like I know him now.
Well, just don't mix him up with Gehrig, Reed, or Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah, Lou Gehrig, baseball player. Lou Reed and, oh, hey, they weren't baseball players. But I bet they did take walks on the wild side in a hulking way.
Ooh, I don't want to end there. Well, why don't we end with a thanks to all those who are joining us today, and thanks especially to my dry cleaner, Billy, who's listening. I hope you'll keep listening, and don't forget to like us and subscribe to the show on your podcast platform. Heading back to the locker room, this is Jerry Dines and Fungos and Fastballs.